days now.
Yeah, this is a deck that we expected to see a lot of, and no surprise, a day 2 invite decided to go with it, and he's already found success with an opening round 1 win.
A Tapu Lele showdown here as both players begin the game with the Tapu Lele as their active Pokemon. Obviously not something you want to see, but you're definitely happy to see that your opponent has it on his end of the field. And now a Level Ball is going to be finding a Rowlet here, and now an Ultra Ball is going to be discarding a couple of cards in order to find any Pokemon in Robin's deck. Force of Giant Plants is, and a Versus Eager are discarded. That usually tells us that there's a Force of Giant Plants in addition to the one that he just discarded in Robin's hand. That is usually a card that you definitely want to hang on to because it's such a powerful trainer to have on your first turn. Yep, sure enough, there it is.
Robin looking over his hand, he has the cards to get a turn 1 Decidueye, but that would leave him with nothing else. He would have no supporter. He doesn't want to grab just the Tapu Lele either, so it looks like he's eyeing up the Shaman, looking to draw a few extra cards to get him into that spot. Definitely wants to find a supporter and a Dartrix here. That could get him an explosive turn 1 start, and he's going to have 5 cards to get him there.
5-card draw, only a Decidueye in his hand. Will he be able to find what he needs? So far, it's an Ultra Ball and a Dartrix there.
Yeah.
So he does find everything he needed, Dartrix and Decidueye, hitting the field right away. So that's a turn 1 Decidueye, but he's not done here if he doesn't want to be. He can definitely Ultra Ball here. If he had a Floatstone, then he might consider getting a Vulpix and then setting himself up to be able to use Beacon on his second turn.
Yeah,
but with an N in his hand, it seems like pretty much everything is at his disposal here.
Yeah, he's left in an awkward spot with the Ultra Ball is a great card to continue to add to your board, but he has 2 Pokemon that he doesn't really want to get rid of here. Of course, he may have options to get these Pokemon back into his deck by use of Rescue Stretcher, but he's going to go ahead and say, yeah, this Rowlet is more important than having this Tapu Lele in my deck, and now it's time for N to find him 6 more cards to maybe find another Decidueye.
Meanwhile, Tristan doesn't get to play any of the cards in his original hand as he's forced to shuffle his own hand back into his deck and draw 6 new ones before his turn even begins. But this is not the end of Robin's turn quite yet. Robin can definitely play down any cards that he chooses to do so. It just so happens that his hand isn't exactly exciting past this point. Has a couple of choice bands, but no additional Pokemon to really play down. So it looks like that's going to be the end of his turn after he decides to Feather Arrow 20 onto the only Pokemon on Tristan's side of the field, and now Tristan gets to begin his turn.
Yeah, Tristan, this is something that you come to expect when you're playing against Decidueye. You always hope that they don't find the forest and get rolling, but you come to expect it. And Tristan now has to start to work on his own field. He's got to get multiple Ralts down if he wants to start to find success, start to build on his own board, get Gardevoirs into play, and start to do a lot of damage like we know that these decks are capable of. Now,
Tristan has a lot of catching up to do here against the turn 1 Decidueye. That's something Gardevoir really can't do. It's one of its few limitations there.
Yeah, 1 Ralt at a time, though. He's going to get his first one here, and we'll see what the rest of his hand really allows him to do. He's kind of just going to bend to whatever it gives him. He's got the Field Blower, which is going to be able to remove the Forest of Giant Plants. If Robin doesn't find another, we might see him limited to just regular evolution, slowing down the amount of Feather Arrows, which means Ralts can stay in play longer.
Decidueye is the bench Pokemon here for Robin, and instead we see a double colorless energy attached to the Tapu Lele on the active Tapu Lele, and a Ralts is going to have a choice band attached to it before a Sycamore draws 7 new cards here for Tristan. A Ralts hitting the bench here.
And Tristan's probably going to be content with just getting 40 damage onto the board, and having these 2 Ralts, it means that he has options to Rare Candy into a Gardevoir in the next turn if he's able to hold on to his hand. It looked like he has the pieces available to him. We'll just see now if Robin's able to put on the pressure without the Forest of Giant Plants, as it looks like his hand doesn't have it.
Yeah, getting rid of that Forest of Giant Plants was pretty important, especially because he discarded another one at the beginning of the game too.
Yeah.
So it will be much harder for him to find these forests for the foreseeable future. But Tristan didn't have an explosive turn. Tristan only has a couple of routes in play. I mean, granted, he can't really evolve them, obviously, but still, you want to see a little bit more action out of your Gardevoir deck.
Yeah, Robin, looking at his options, he could potentially play the choice band on Tapu Lele and try to get a lot more damage on board. It seems like he's going to put it on the Shaman here just because he knows at some point he's going to be able to Sky Return, bring that back up, and avoid those 2 prizes being so easily available for Tristan.
Now, still struggling to find that Force the Giant Plants here. So it looks like he's going to have to start evolving his Pokemon the old-fashioned way.
Well, off the draw, although he wasn't able to find the forest, he does have energy and the Alolan Vulpix. He could decide to retreat and start using Beacon if he wants to. It looks like he's going to use his Feather Arrow first and then start to look at what's the best option here. Maybe even sheer damage is pretty good, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. And I guess neither is he. As we just see a energy drive for 80 damage here in the turn here for Robin.
Yeah, this does set up for Robin to have a Sky Return knockout. He'd have to find another double colorless energy, but that would be a pretty clean way to remove this Tapu Lele and to remove his own Shaman off of the board.
Instead, Tristan retreats his Tapu Lele, which means he will no longer have that double colorless energy attached to it. But more importantly, it will be a little bit harder for Robin to knock out that Tapu Lele before and take these 2 prizes. But in the meantime, Delayed just attaches a double colorless energy, knocks out the Tapu Lele here for Robin after a Hex Maniac. And Premonition, Sensitive Blade, definitely very good reasons to play Gallade. And even though it's not exactly Gardevoir EX, which we've been going on about, it's still a very powerful Pokemon in its own right.
Yeah, what an amazing turn for Tristan. He's able to take the knockout on the Tapu Lele with pretty great math for him. Also using the Hex Maniac that avoids Feather Arrows, and Robin using any cards like Tapu Lele to advance his board state, looking just at Bridget for 1 Pokemon.
Yeah, this is where that Rowlet being prized definitely hurts Robin. He probably expected to get a couple of Rowlets out of that Bridget. Getting only 1 Pokemon worth of mileage out of it is not ideal in the least bit. And his hand is just not good. It's plain and simple. It's not a good hand at all. And don't get me wrong, Decidueye having a lot of hit points here is definitely going to help him out a lot. But it's not the kind of board that we're used to seeing out of this Decidueye deck. As we saw Shintaro have triple Decidueye in his side of the field. The big difference is that Force the Giant Plants not being in play.
Yeah, Robin even has Revitalizer to get another Decidueye down if he wants to, but he's in slow motion now without that Forest of Giant Plants. We see Tristan now using that Premonition ability. It's something that we've come to see a lot in Expanded, but now we get to see it along with its partner, Gardevoir GX. It's a great way to get yourself the exact card that you need, set yourself up for these future turns where maybe you're not using a draw supporter. Maybe you're using cards like Hex Maniac.
The Versus Seeker finds a Hex Maniac and sure enough plays it right away. Attaches a Fairy Energy onto the bench routes. So now there's no Feather Arrows here, but we also see that the setup for Robin is so poor that he's also trying to use that Hex Maniac to stunt the growth of Robin's field too. He's hoping that maybe Robin needs access to, say, something like a setup or a Wonder Tag in order to really get things going. And that's not necessarily the case here, but still, that's what Tristan's hopes were.
Yeah, I think Robin does have an Ultra Ball in his hand, but it wouldn't be able to get him anything due to the Hex Maniac stopping the abilities. So he's just going to hold on to it. Maybe this Hex chain will stop after all the aggression that he's put into this Gallade, and he'll be able to start working on his board.
That, and I believe both Tapu Leles are already in the discard pile.
Yeah, that can also hurt you.
One got knocked out and the other one got discarded. Yep, they are both there. So it's a rough start here for Robin, actually, as Robin is just kind of out of options due to his early discards that you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
How they were very critical cards that he didn't want to get rid of, but he felt like he had no real choice in that specific situation. And sure enough, just a couple of turns later, he's definitely missing them, and he's forced to hollow hunt. That's how much he misses these cards.
Yeah, he's probably looked through his deck quite a few times and realized that there's 3 energies in the prize cards. That's definitely going to hinder him from using a hollow hunt after if this Decidueye was potentially knocked out. So he needs to use it now while he has the grass energy so that he can continue to at least start to put some pressure in the coming turns. But this is a big opening for Tristan now. He's able to get himself his own Gardevoir. This Gallade is still a pretty big threat, and he's going to use a Sycamore here, which not only activates the Gallade, but gives him 7 fresh cards.
So we saw how Decidueye really took it to the Lurantis deck, but now we're seeing Decidueye face down a Gardevoir deck, and we see how the tides are kind of completely different here, as Decidueye has a lot of hit points, but it's facing down a Gardevoir that can deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, Gardevoir can put in a lot of work really quick, and we will start to see that soon out of Tristan's side. If he can continue to keep up this pressure that he has, he's been able to do a fair amount of damage and continue to work on having backup Pokemon ready to go into play here. He's starting to use that Secret Spring ability and place extra energies onto the board too, and Premonition's still available for him, so he can get himself set up with a fantastic top deck if he so chooses.
Yeah, these are some powerful abilities out of this Gardevoir deck, but rightfully so. These are stage 2 Pokemon. They're not exactly the easiest things in the world to get out early in the game. So you expect a very large payoff off of these stage 2 Pokemon, and I think that's kind of why we've been struggling to see all these stage 2 decks in the past, is because their abilities just didn't match the kind of requirement you really had out of having to get that kind of mileage for the investment that you're putting into them. But that's definitely not the case for these two, as Gardevoir and Gallade have quite a bit of power, not only with their attacks, but also in their abilities.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a deck with Rare Candy hasn't won the World Championship since Guardy Gallade.
Yeah, I think 2011 was the last time.
So it would just be fitting if Guardy Gallade was able to do it again now.
Yeah, no kidding. Astute observation. And now Mewtwo being the active Pokemon. Mewtwo is usually a very fearsome Pokemon, but not quite as much against Gardevoir. It is pretty good against Gallade, though, I'll admit.
Yeah, and it's meant for the Espeon GX matchup, but we see here that it's going to start to find some use, at least clearing out this Gallade, and Robin's going to be able to start focusing on his board here. He just really hasn't been able to find that forest of giant plants, and we've seen how much that struggle has been putting on his board. He just hasn't been able to get anywhere.
Now, he has finally gotten that second Decidueye into play, but we saw how hard he struggled to do so.
Yeah.
It took him a lot of resources and a long time to get that second Decidueye in play, and we're not even necessarily sure that it's going to be worth the payoff that for that investment, as now he's going to be ending Tristan down to a 2-card hand, but look at how that just means that Tristan's got 2 prizes remaining.
Yeah, I mean, Tristan's been able to put on so much pressure, and not much has happened over on Robin's side.
Feels like I blinked and Tristan took 4 prizes.
Yeah, looking over at Robin's hand, again, not too much going on for him. Not even an energy card to continue to have answers in the future. Just going to have to attack with his Mewtwo. Can put down some Feather Arrows too. Start to work on that Gardevoir, but with 230 hit points, it's going to take a lot of Feather Arrows.
So Tristan can end the game right here if he finds a Guzma or a Lysander and say a Choice Band and an Energy. But, I mean, he's down to a 2-card hand, so it's not the easiest thing for him to do. A Sycamore will ensure that he doesn't do that, but at least it'll also make sure that he gets a much more powerful setup than he currently has. It's just going to be very difficult for Robin to come back here.
No energy
35
cards.
minutes remaining. Yeah, no energy cards is definitely one good thing for Robin here. But with 35 minutes remaining, Robin definitely has to be contemplating just scooping up his cards here.
Yeah, that's actually pretty important here. I don't even know if he can take the knockout now.
I mean, that's true. He doesn't have a Choice Band, or the Choice Band isn't relevant in his Mewtwo.
Yeah, we're gonna he's gonna continue to play out some more cards here. He has the Ultra Ball. Don't know if his list is playing the Oranguru that we've seen in the last, but yeah, that might be able to help him out if he can play enough cards in his hand. Maybe he can draw into it.
That's my analysis.
Very astute.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in awe of how dominant this deck's looking against Decidueye. But at the same time, we do have to keep in mind that not having Force the Giant Plants has always been an issue for Decidueye. So it doesn't really matter what it's facing down against. If you don't have Force the Giant Plants, your deck definitely feels a lot more vulnerable.
Yeah, and Tristan astutely realizing there's no knockout available to him here because of the unfortunate series of just drawing no energy cards off of that 7. So he's going to use his Twilight GX here, gets himself 10 cards out of his discard pile, which just sounds crazy, but he's going to be able to get just about anything that he needs to finish out this game. And you have to be feeling good. Already taking 4 prize cards and being able to shuffle all of these great cards right back in to help you finish out the game.
Yeah, more importantly, that gives Robin hope, which means we're likely not going to be seeing Robin scoop up his cards in the next couple of minutes. But so Robin, I mean, giving Robin hope is obviously a good thing for Robin because now at this point, he can definitely have a big turn and maybe knock out this Gardevoir, which would definitely put things in Robin's favor at this point. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's just a lot of work that you have to put into this Gardevoir. Honestly, I think a continuing chain of N is his way to win here. The fact that Twilight GX makes you take 10 cards means that sometimes you're going to put cards back into your deck that won't be helpful. So that means there's more duds that he could hit off of an N, potentially just hitting a few Ultra Balls or something might not be able to get Tristan back to where he wants to be.
So we can get off, 4 Feather Arrows and plays a Choice Band, he'll be able to knock out the Gardevoir, I think?
I'm not a math scientist.
Odds are I'm wrong, so let's go with me being wrong on that one.
Well, Robin was eyeing out the Espeon EX, which is a potential way to clear this off. You can just de-evolve the Gardevoir. That's one way to clear it out.
That's the easy way, though.
We saw Shintaro found some pretty good success with it, though. I don't think we're going to fault him for finding the easy ways.
Only a professional knows when to take the easy way out. All right, so a Decidueye GX will take the Floatstone before we see an N get played. Actually, he has the option between playing an N or playing the Versus Seeker and finding a Sycamore, but I think the N is definitely the play here.
Yeah.
Get your opponent's hand back down to a 2-card hand. You saw him already put a bunch of resources back into his deck and increase his own hand size, so you definitely want to get him right back down, make him struggle to get anything going again. And Robin, in the meantime, still has to find quite a bit of help here from those 5 cards.
Yeah, one thing Robin does have going for him is he has a single prize Pokemon active, so that is not going to help Tristan. Tristan's looking to take a GX or EX knockout. So this damage is pretty free for him. He gets to put it down onto the Gardevoir, continue to work with these Feather Arrows that he has available to him. Actually just going to place all of them onto the Curlia here and try to put some pressure on the back end. If another Gardevoir doesn't come into play, then he's set up in a fantastic spot. And this setup really just screams Espeon to me. Yeah. If he's able to get this off, then Tristan's just left with a Tapu Lele, and Robin's in a great spot here.
But at the same time, I think Tristan realizes that, and he's going to do his best to avoid that from happening. What exactly he can do, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, it's a card like Acerola wouldn't do enough for him. Too. And he needs a lot of cards, so Sycamore is going to be the best way to find those. And he can get himself 7, and maybe the answer is somewhere in there.
Has he discarded any Max Potions from his deck? Because I'm pretty sure he plays them. I mean, this is a Gardevoir GX deck. Which does sometimes play him.
Yeah, he has 2 Max Potion in his deck. Not sure if he's been able to find those just yet. Definitely a card that he would be looking for here.
Thank you.
Tristan just looking over what he's got. At least he has an energy this time around off of the Sycamore. Able to attach that, and now the Mewtwo can be knocked out, but is that really what he wants to do? He's clearing off a semi-useless threat over on the Mewtwo, and he's still got a lot of damage on his side, and he feels pretty weak to the Espeon possibility.
Okay, let's see. So he did shuffle in at least 1 Max Potion from the Twilight GX, by the way. So he definitely had one in the deck. He just didn't draw it, which is huge for him. That would have been very, very important for him against Robin. But as it stands, an Espeon EX turn here from Robin will knock out both of these threats with energy on them. And that's just not what you want to see if you're Tristan. Robin very realistically could be making a comeback here. Tristan goes down to a single prize, but that's not the story that we're telling here.
Yeah, and Tristan, he doesn't have to feel too bad. Robin doesn't have that many cards in his hand. He has no Pokemon with free retreat, so
down
a
to
Float Stone.
7-ish cards in the deck? 7, 6 maybe?
Yeah, he's got very few cards left, so Sycamore is a dangerous card to use here. He needs to draw a lot more prize cards. Probably going to eye up an N and just try to play out his hand as best as possible to leave him with the right amount of turns to win a game.
I mean, how many energies does he have left in the deck, too? Because he needs one for the Espeon.
Yeah, it looks like just the double color list there for him.
Does he have a Float Stone on this active Decidueye?
He has a Float Stone in his hand, and he has the Rescue Stretcher, which means that he can shuffle back in 3 Pokemon and buy himself 3 more turns if he has those in his discard pile.
Sure, but you don't want to do that before you draw the double colors, because then that'll make it that much harder for you.
Right, this is to play after he uses the N.
Right.
So, yeah, Robin's going to eye it up. Just make sure that there's 3 Pokemon in there. Clearly there are. He's played a very late game here.
He's a favorite to draw this double colors, but he is by no means guaranteed.
Yeah, I think he almost draws his whole deck here. There's not much left.
I think there's at least 1 card left in the deck, maybe 2, though. And it's happened before where the last card in your deck is the one you need.
Yep.
Will Robin find the card he needs here? This is a very critical turn here for him. Will he find the double colorless energy? Double colorless energy will allow him to Miraculous Shine, and he does find that double colorless energy. Very crucial card here for Robin Schulz, as he's going to be able to retreat that Decidueye and Miraculous Shine, knocking out both the Gardevoir GX and the Curlia on the bench.
Yeah, and fantastic play. He can use Feather Arrow here to take out a Ralts, and then the other 2 Pokemon are going to be knocked out as well due to the Miraculous Shine. So all that's left for Tristan now is a bunch of Tapu Lele, and that's not going to bode too well for him here.
So he does take 3 prizes throughout this turn, but he did not knock out the Gardevoir GX because it went back to his hand, so it's the Ralts underneath that got knocked out. But that's not relevant. What's relevant is the fact that Tristan has 1 prize remaining, but no real easy way to take it. And Robin has 2 prizes remaining at this point, which means Tristan does not have a lot of time left, and he's forced to just play a Versus Seeker, find himself a Sycamore, draw 7 cards. Does Tristan have what he needs, or will Robin have found this improbable comeback based off of basically just Espeon EX?
Yeah, double colorless was the way to do it. He needed to find that to use an energy drive into this Espeon, and now he just has to hope that the Tapu Lele on his bench doesn't get knocked out in any way. It could happen by use of a Tapu Koko promo or something along those lines if he has a way to get any damage onto it, really.
He still didn't find the Max Potion, by the way, which means that Tapu Lele on the bench has 100 damage on it, which means a single Lysander style effect. Guzma, for example, which he does have.
Looks like Guzma Shaman can do it. Yeah, he's got the Shaman available to him. He can use Sky Return, and the Feather Arrows are going to clean up that Tapu Lele, and there goes game 1.
What a comeback from Robin here. Robin Schulz was behind 5 prizes to 2 against Tristan Wagner, and he saw the play that he had to make, but Tristan could not avoid it. Tristan tried his best. He Sycamored into a 7-card hand, had at least 1 Max Potion still in the deck, potentially even 2, and he just couldn't find it.
Yeah, and I guess that's
As a matter of fact, that was 2 turns in a row where he couldn't find it. He could have found it for that Max Potion turn here on the Tapu Lele, and he still didn't find it.
Yeah, and that's just the double-edged sword of using Gardevoir's Twilight GX. You put a lot of cards back into your deck, so although a Max Potion is now in there, you kind of hurt yourself in finding it. You're going to draw into all those cards you already used. So a little unfortunate, the draws for Tristan. It could have been a completely different game with 1 more Max Potion hitting the board, but we see that Robin's strategy worked out pretty flawlessly. Just bought himself enough time to put that damage down, and 1 big cleanup with the Espeon was able to win him the game.
And that's exactly why Robin couldn't scoop. We saw how Tristan had a couple of turns where he could have sealed the game, but he just couldn't find what he needed. And then Robin laid out a 2-turn plan, which worked to perfection because Tristan, once again, could not find what he needed. And now these players are playing down their prizes for Game 2. Game 1 was one of the longer ones that this matchup can have, as it really came down to the wire. And it looks like Tristan is going to be taking a mulligan here, as he did not have any basic Pokemon in his hand. So Robin gets a 1-card advantage, but Tristan gets a new hand of 7.
And he's going to be going first in this game, which will also be pretty helpful. We got to see the prize cards over on Robin's side. He does have a Bridget prize, which means that he won't be able to find that off of a Tapu Lele, which is generally the best start that you can have with one of these Decidueye decks, getting all of your Rowlets. And over on the other side, we see that Tristan, he prized his Gallade and double colorless energy, which might be pretty relevant. It just really depends on what strategy he decides to go with.
Tristan actually plays multiple Gallades too in this deck, which is very uncommon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. A lot of players have been eyeing up just one Gallade, but he's seen that doing 130 damage with Sensitive Blade and also having Premonition available to you is pretty relevant.
Well, a very simple turn here from Tristan. He is not able to take advantage of the fact that he goes first by simply attaching a double colorless energy to the Tapu Lele, which he started the game off with again, and plays a Hex Maniac to just end his turn. You see him kind of shaking his head a little bit, but Robin kind of bailing him out here, playing an N as his only supporter of the turn, kind of helping Tristan out there, because clearly his hand wasn't helping him out.
Yeah, Tristan's hand wasn't very good, but if he had a card like, if he had an Energy and a VS Seeker, he would be able to not only knock out the Rowlet, but apply some pretty big pressure to the Tapu Lele. So Robin has to bail him out in that spot, give him 6 fresh cards, and this is all looking to go in Tristan's favor, even though his hand wasn't very good to start.
Yeah, a combination of him playing Hex Maniac plus his opponent shoveling his own hand back in is definitely what the doctor ordered here for Tristan in the second game, as there's 23 minutes remaining.
Yeah, whenever you have to bench Tapu Lele and not be able to use Wonder Tag, you probably did something wrong, but no, it was just a Hex Maniac.
All right, let's see. A Robin Schulz pass here. So he does get the triple Rowlet, which we cannot really ignore, as that's a very strong turn here for Robin, getting 3 of his desired basic Pokemon into play. But Tristan feels very happy with the outcome of this turn.
Yep. Tristan now using Tapu Lele's Wonder Tag to find himself the Bridget, and he can get himself set up. He can find all the routes that he wants to get onto the board that aren't going to be sniped away by Decidueyes this early in the game. And he likely has an energy card in his hand as well, so that he can use Energy Drive, knocking out this Rowlet and continuing to put on some pretty relevant pressure on Robin.
Bridget could have found an Oranguru, but decides to find triple routes instead. I think that's definitely a wise choice here, as Oranguru can not only be a liability here, but also is not exactly what you want to be seeing on your second turn of the game. Now, triple routes means, on the second turn, means that he will not be getting a turn 2 Gardevoir GX, but still, at least he has 3 of these Pokemon in play, and your opponent doesn't seem to have any Decidueye anywhere in the near future until I finish that sentence, which ends with a Force of Giant Plants coming down, as well as a Sycamore drawing 7 new cards here for Robin. Will Robin find the tools that he needs to start getting these Decidueyes in play? The answer seems to be no, as all we see is a Alolan Vulpix, a Decidueye, and no real other evolutions for the Decidueye line.
Yeah, he's got an energy card in his hand. That means he'll be able to retreat and use Beacon. Tristan, unfortunately for him, wasn't able to knock out this Rowlet, which means that it's a potential another Decidueye that he's going to have to deal with. And Robin now is just going to use Beacon here. He can get himself a couple of Dartrix and get himself set up, but just one N really can turn that around and take all these cards out of Robin's hand.
Yeah, those 2 Dartrix are going to be the desired target here for the Beacon from Alolan Vulpix, but Tristan Wagner definitely can mess with Robin's plans here by playing a counter stadium or a field blower and playing an N here, and that'll take Robin right back to square one, basically, because he'll still have only triple Rowlet in play at the end of Tristan's second turn.
Tristan now found a Gardevoir GX. He's got a Curlia in his hand. He does have that field blower that you were talking about, and that's going to be pretty big. Getting rid of the Forest of Giant Plants and the Choice Band on the Tapu Lele. And of course, that N is exactly what you want to see when you play against someone who just used Beacon. Now he's going to try to find the rest of those pieces, though. Can he find Rare Candy and Gardevoir? Can he find pieces of the Gallade puzzle? Something to just advance this board state here.
Yeah, very important series of events here for Tristan here, as he gets rid of that Force of Giant Plants, which was very crucial, and also, very importantly, gets rid of the Dartrix in Robin's hand. Both players shuffle in and get 6 new cards. We're looking at Robin's hand, and honestly, outside of like Ultra Ball and Versus Seeker, not a very exciting hand. But here for Tristan here, we see a Rare Candy and a Gardevoir GX. Gardevoir now using its ability to get an extra Fairy Energy into play.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to find when you use, and he found Rare Candy Gardevoir, multiple energies, and if he has any supporter to back this up, he'll be in a great spot. Also, being able to get that knockout on the Alolan Vulpix takes away the pressure of Beacon, and now Robin's going to have to start to build onto this board the old-fashioned way. He has to draw into all these cards.
And is there a Force of Giant Plants in his hand? I don't think so, right?
I believe he did draw into one, but he's going to have to find a couple more pieces to really get going.
I guess we'll have to wait and find out, but he definitely has to Ultra Ball just for a Dartrix here, which is something he had in his hand at the start of his, at the end of his last turn, and he does have that Force of Giant Plants, just like you said. Plays an in, shuffles both players' hands back into their decks, and now Tristan only draws 5 as he's finally taken a prize.
Yep, Robin now, he's going to get himself 6 fresh cards and really just needs to start finding anything green. He needs to, maybe an energy card, maybe some Dartrix pieces, but those are the cards that he needs to get going here. He needs to start putting some pressure on. Feather Arrows would be fantastic for him.
All right, Robin draws 6 new cards. We see a Dartrix, or actually we see a Rowlet and we see a Decidueye, so we'll at least see one Decidueye in play here.
That double colorless energy is pretty relevant too. He can start putting some pressure on this Tapu Lele, which has been unchallenged to this point, and
it's going to be 100 damage onto the Tapu Lele.
Yeah, and he's also got Feather Arrow, so if he wants to start to apply some pressure to the Gardevoir as well, that'll help him out.
Now the 4th Rowlet, or 3rd Rowlet, and a Decidueye in play, but still no more Dartrix. And that is going to be the end of the turn after dealing 100 damage to the Tapu Lele in Tristan's active position. Rare Candy actually is a nice little find here for Tristan, as if he has another Gardevoir or a Gallade here, we'll see a second Stage 2 evolution here. At the same time, though, do you really want to overextend against the player who you know plays Espeon EX?
Yeah, it seems like he's going to do this now while the pieces of the puzzle aren't necessarily there.
There's a Max Potion, by the way.
Robin would have to have access to another Decidueye, the Espeon, and an Energy in order to clear off this Gardevoir that was Rare Candied. But right now seems to be a good time for Tristan to go in, and he has chosen to do so. With the Choice Band and 5 energies, he does have 180 damage that he can do to this Tapu Lele, and it starts to put a lot of pressure over on Robin.
Man, I love the damage output from Gardevoir GX. I think it's... I keep thinking back to Kyle, the other Kyle, Puka saying, that card is broken. And at first I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, it deals a lot of damage, but I'm not sure how broken it truly is. And then after playing with it a couple of times, it's impossible not to feel its power.
After you put on your glasses and read it, it's pretty good.
That too. All right, 2 Gardevoir GX in play now here for Tristan. Will Robin have an answer to this Gardevoir GX onslaught that Tristan's really bringing down here? It seems like Robin may, I mean, I said this last game, but it seems like he may be overwhelmed by the power from Gardevoir GX, but this time it seems to be even more of a case here, as there's 2 Gardevoir GX and not a Gallade and a Gardevoir.
Yeah, and Robin's going to continue to do what he does best and just try to buy some more time, play in, and just pray. But
I would hate to be known as the guy who just does what he does best by playing in.
He just has to find any way to buy some time here. Decidueye has a lot of hit points, doesn't have any energies on it, so Gardevoir would have to really play a lot of energies to get that going. I don't even know if that's possible right now, but Robin's just going to try to put some Feather Arrows down and wait for this Espeon to line up again, I think.
These European juggernauts here, Robin Schulz, one of the Schulz brothers, and Tristan Wagner, both players qualified straight into day 2 through their success at the at the international stage. And both players really giving us a taste of what we can expect to see out of them this weekend, as both are 1-0 and putting up a great fight against each other in this round 2. Gardevoir GX, just an incredibly powerful beast. Decidueye GX, not weak in its own right, but definitely seems to be at least a little bit outscaled here by the power of Gardevoir GX, and it's very energy.
An interesting card that Tristan plays. He has the Mallow in there. It can line up nicely when you have cards like Oranguru. You can start to set up your deck and then just draw straight into the 2 cards you need.
Same thing with Premonition, too.
Yeah.
Well, sort of.
Well,
I guess no.
Premonition is basically just a Mallow on a smaller scale. But
that's what I meant to say for the record.
Yeah. And just having the right cards at the right time is really all Tristan needs. He doesn't need a lot of cards. He just needs the ones to help him finish this game off. Right now, his damage output is at least in a 2-hit range on this Decidueye, so that's fair for him. Now he just wants to make sure that he has multiple attackers ready, just in case something wonky happens. Having a Kirlia evolved Gardevoir means that that one probably won't be taken away by an Espeon, and that's something that he's focused on with this Kirlia that he has here on the side.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's now building up a third potential Gardevoir, but he's doing so the natural way without spending the rare candies and whatnot, really kind of shores up his deck's weakness to the Espeon EX here. He's going to make sure that even if the worst happens, if he has the third Gardevoir GX in play, he'll be able to get that back into play after the Espeon EX uses its attack.
Robin now probably going to be looking for a Dartrix. He hasn't been able to find one ever since he got his first Decidueye into play.
Yeah, he found him through Beacon, but he just kept getting them shuffled right back in from Tristan, and that end's just been doing a lot of damage to Robin. Live by the end, die by the end, I guess. But Ultra Ball finding a Shaman. Will Shaman be using its setup ability? Shaman is a very, very weak Pokemon against a deck that deals as much damage as Gardevoir GX. It's always a potential target.
Yeah, but it looks like this is all Robin really has available to him. He's going to draw and try to find some answers.
That's up for 3. Finds a Decidueye and a Level Ball. Level Ball can find him a Dartrix here.
Yep, able to find that Dartrix for himself there, and the other 2 are in there. He just hasn't been able to draw into them, unfortunately.
Sometimes the Dartrixers aren't feeling like playing, you know? They kind of feel a little bit lazy. They feel like they want to take a game off. Yeah. It's an 8-round event, you know? They don't want to come out every round.
They're probably looking forward to lunch break then. They need to
no kidding.
Kick it into gear.
All right, so Decidueye, a second Decidueye now in play. And the Gardevoir on GX taking some Feather Arrows right on the chin.
Yeah, Acerola going to be a great way to pick up his Pokemon that has been damaged here, can replay the rest of the pieces of that Decidueye if he so chooses. Another Feather Arrow is available to him. And Sky Return is going to be a great way for him to soften up this active Gardevoir for the Espeon. Now he just needs to make sure that he has enough Feather Arrows down on the Kirlia that he just touched there so that he can have a triple sweep with this Espeon like he did in the last game.
Yeah, no kidding. It seems like it's a long-term strategy, but if he has enough turns to do so, because of Acerola, which we've seen do work already in round 1, then it won't really matter. It won't matter that he's taken multiple turns to do this.
I think the Gardevoir should have extra damage on it. The Sky Return plus Choice Band is 60. Not too relevant, but of course, don't want to miss any damage counters here on the world stage.
Right, of course. Now, a double colorless does get attached onto the Kirlia on the bench, and then Oranguru is going to find him 3 additional cards because of Instruct.
Yeah, it's wild to see Oranguru getting such use out of a Stage 2 deck. A lot of times you think a deck that, like Vespiquen or Rayquaza would be using this Oranguru more effectively, but actually Gardevoir is a pretty nice partner with it.
Yeah, of course, because of Premonition as well. But absolutely a very potentially important Hex Maniac here from Tristan is going to stop Decidueye from dealing any type of Feather Arrow damage on this turn. And again, when your entire game plan is to soften up the the Espeon and the Curly on the bench, that can be very important. That could be one of the ways that you just you don't do what your entire game plan up to this point intends you to do. But in the meantime, Acerola just buying him more turns, and sure enough, Shaman also dealing a little bit more damage. He couldn't set up with it, but he can at least Sky Return and deal 60 more damage. And I mean, this Gardevoir is definitely taking some hits. It will eventually be knocked out, even if it isn't the fastest possible strategy.
Yeah, every back and forth you see here with the Hex Maniac can be countered with the Acerola. Any damage that the Gardevoir does trying to get that 2-hit knockout is just immediately swept up, and Robin just buys himself another turn. So the moment that Tristan doesn't have that Hex Maniac, like this turn here using the Sycamore, this means that Robin does potentially have the answer with a big Espeon swing.
It's a slow burn, but it is taking its toll, as we see that the Gardevoir GX has 140 damage on it, and the Gardevoir GX on the bench has 60 damage on it, which means, I mean, we're only a couple of turns away from that Espeon EX doing what it intends to do, potentially even only one turn away.
Yeah, and interesting that Robin decided to promote the Decidueye that doesn't have the Float Stone on it. This makes it a little bit harder for him to make the Espeon turn happen. It might hint that he's a few turns away from it, or that he was expecting the Hex Maniac versus Acerola game that we've seen a lot of.
Again with the... All right, let's see. Okay, so Miraculous Shine actually makes you automatically de-evolve all of your high stage evolutions, which means that you can't choose not to, leave the Gallade in play, which is very important, because if the Gallade doesn't have enough damage on it, and the Curly does survive the Miraculous Shine, then you'll be able to turn that into a Gardevoir GX.
Right.
And again, I mean, if you at any point have a Max Potion, which I believe Tristan does, then again, you can just mess with your opponent's game plan up completely.
Yeah, Robin now using one of those level balls. Generally, you use those earlier in the game, but he's finding them now, and it's getting the Dartrix an important card here if he wants to find the right amount of Feather Arrows to clean up this board, where he's left a lot of damage all over Tristan, but hasn't been able to turn it into any prize cards. Still sitting at 6 remaining.
7 minutes, 45 seconds remaining in this round. Robin Schulz up 1-0 against Tristan Wagner, and Tristan is trying to complete this at least single game comeback and bring things up to 1 game apiece and at least get a draw out of this round. But Robin doing what he can to avoid that from happening. And I mean, these are the critical turns. These are the turns where Robin's going to try to get his game plan in full momentum, try to secure a big turn here from the Espeon EX if he still chooses to go that route. And Tristan's going to do what he can to avoid that. But triple Decidueye GX is just very powerful no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, with no way to retreat here, he's going to just use Tapu Lele. It means that the Espeon will have to wait until some bench space clears up. He's got the Guzma so that he can put some damage onto maybe the Gallade if he wants to. Just it depends on how he feels like spacing out this damage will best suit him and his winning strategy. He's got double colorless energy, so Tapu Lele could either benefit from that, or he could put it back onto the Shaman, allowing him to get some draws in the future. I'd expect to see Shaman come into play here.
Well, the Guzma will allow the Decidueye to leave the active spot. I think you go after the Gallade here.
Yeah, the Choice Band won't provide any extra effect, but maybe that's just the most damage that you can get down and to affect the Curlia. But it's he's going to go to the Gardevoir here, get some use out of that Choice Band, and put a little extra damage there instead.
This entire game plan just hinges on your opponent not having Max Potion in his hand.
And he
tripled Feather Arrow onto the Gallade on the bench.
Think about a Hex Maniac even also. You know that Robin's hand now is just 3 cards, 2 that can be easily played, and then that Shaman trying to draw more. So VS Seeker for Tristan could be detrimental.
Yeah, I mean, Tristan, on the other hand, if he does play the Hex Maniac, you know that he's just gonna have to cross his fingers at that point, because in his own mind, he is not sure if his opponent does have the Espeon EX. Well, he is right now, but he's not sure if his opponent will be able to get the Espeon EX and not sandbag it, for example, and just play it down. So it's not an easy turn for Tristan to take, and it's not an easy decision for Tristan to make, but it may very well be the correct one.
Yeah, he's going to mull over his options. He has Guzma plays available if he wants to clean off the Decidueye here. And it looks like that's what he's going to choose to do. But this means that Robin does have access to a Shaman now to draw him cards in this next coming turn. All those cards could be the way to win this game.
I really want to see a Max Potion here out of Tristan. I desperately want to see a Max Potion out of Tristan. He has it in his hand. He does play it. Big time play here by Tristan. Plays the Max Potion, gets rid of all the damage on his Gardevoir GX, and that completely messes with all of Robin's plans that he's been setting up for the last few turns. That's like 4 turns worth of plans that are just out the window. As now, if you do the Espeon EX plan, you're likely not going to win the game that route because your opponent's just going to have an Espeon Gardevoir GX to fight back from, even if you do knock out a couple of his Kirlias.
Yeah, and it's with 4 minutes left. He's probably got enough time here to get himself a few more prize cards. So Tristan has to feel relatively comfortable, even though he does see that Espeon could potentially be on the horizon.
That was a big-time Max Potion here out of Tristan. Couldn't have come at a better time. And now Gallade is going to be dealing quite a bit of damage with Sensitive Blade, knocking out the Decidueye, and Decidueye GX does hit the bin, hits the discard pile. That's going to be 2 prizes taken by Tristan. 1 prize remaining. Will he be able to tie things up with only 3.5 minutes remaining? I'm not sure, but it seems like he's making a very good case in his own favor.
Yeah, Robin now, he just has to find the best way to let this Shaman do its job. He needs to draw into a few extra cards. This Choice Band is going to be an extra card that he needs to play down onto the board so that he can find something with the Shaman. Doesn't want to attach his energy for the turn yet because he needs that for the Espeon. So we'll see what these 4 cards have for him. It looks like he does have access to an N, which will be relatively helpful, but with Oranguru on your opponent's side, you know that your opponent's going to find some extra cards. But this would mean that off the end of 6, he needs to find the Espeon and the energy.
Yeah, the N will find him 6 cards, but that's, you're definitely not happy when an N's finding you 6 cards when your opponent only hits 1.
Yeah.
It means you're down 6 prizes to 1. Jeez.
Yeah, might even have to go with a slower approach of just take the Gallade off of the board and then just hope your opponent doesn't find a card like Guzma to take out that Rowlet, which is a really easy prize, and he's just going to have to let Decidueye take another hit from one of these Gardevoirs.
Maybe a Hex Maniac here? Well, no, I mean, you're the Decidueye player, so that's not even an option. Jeez.
Yeah, you can see it on Robin's face. He knows that he's been playing a pretty long game here too, so just going to try to take away any easy prize cards with this Acerola use. Back, the Rowlet goes to the hand now, and he's just going to try to leave as much damage, as much hit points as he can on the board to hope that there's no way he can be knocked out.
All right, Tristan, 1 prize remaining, 1.5 minutes remaining in this match. Will he be able to take the final prize and tie things up at 1 game apiece against Robin Schulz?
He is a Guzma and double colorless energy away from being able to do so onto that Tapu Lele. Other than that, though, I don't see a way for him to clean up the game this turn, but he's in a fairly good spot. He made Robin use so many resources now that the Acerola account has to be pretty low.
It really does. I mean, even now he just used an Acerola on a lowly Rowlet. So we've got to be down to maybe 1 or 2, if that. 1 minute remaining. Tristan Wagner.
It looks like he was eyeing the Hex Maniac that's in his discard pile.
All right, retreats the Gallade, promotes the Gardevoir GX with only a single energy on it, but uses its ability to attach a second energy to it. Doesn't exactly need to deal a lot of damage since Decidueye GX isn't going to be knocked out in 1 hit anyways. plays a Versus Seeker for, I believe, a Hex Maniac, plays the Hex Maniac, 30 seconds remaining, a little below that actually, uses his GX attack in order to, Twilight GX, in order to bring 10 cards back into his deck. And actually, this could be relevant. There's 10 seconds remaining on the clock. If he doesn't shuffle up his deck and Robin doesn't draw his card for the turn, Robin will be turn 1 instead of turn 0. And it seems like that's going to be the case, as now there's just a couple of seconds left in the game. We might be getting the bad news for Tristan here, as Tristan may only get one more turn to play out this this match, as opposed to 2 if he had done this a little bit earlier. So sure enough, turn 0 is Tristan. Turn 1 is going to be Robin, which means Tristan only gets one more turn after Robin passes his own.
Yeah, Tristan now has to basically just give him the best possible odds to find a Guzma or Lysander effect. This means that he has to leave one of the Guzma or Lysanders in the discard pile for via Seeker targets, which is something that people will overlook. And now he's given himself, it looks like 2 VS Seekers and a Lysander are options for him to draw into, along with whatever's left in his deck still. And he's going to be left with double colorless energy, and a bringing up effect is the way to win this game.
So he's going to obviously be targeting down the top Ulele. But I mean, with only one turn remaining, this is definitely not a guarantee for Tristan whatsoever. And now Robin just has to try to avoid defeat by any means possible. I would assume I'd be looking at an N here from Robin.
Yeah, that's going to be the way for him to do that. He needs to make sure that Tristan's options are limited. Of course, Premonition and Oranguru looking at drawing you some extra cards as well means that Tristan can find a lot of cards, but maybe 10 was too many cards. That's something that we see with Twilight GX, and he might just draw into a bunch of cards that don't benefit him.
Yeah, just a bunch of nonsense like max potions and stuff.
Yeah.
Things you definitely don't want to be seeing on your final turn of the game. You're taking one prize, or it's one prize or bust here for Tristan. Robin contemplating playing that Shaman.
Yeah, whenever Robin plays Shaman, you know that he's going to be using Sky Return. He can't leave that target on the board, so double colorless energy is likely to follow. And yeah, he's just going to put a little damage onto the board.
That's the end of his turn. He didn't have the end, which means Tristan has all of his own cards available to him. Will he have the
double
Guzma?
colorless?
And Guzma and double colorless is what he needs. Well, actually, he needs a little bit more than that. No, I guess that's it.
Yeah, that would be enough.
All he needs. Guzma, double colorless. Does he have the Guzma? Does he have a way to draw the Guzma? Does he have a way to discard cards from his hand so he can draw a Guzma? No, N will not do it. 180 damage is all he can deal to Decidueye here.
Yeah, the only option he has now is to just get the 2 extra energy accelerated
two fairy
from
energies.
a Gardevoir. So 2 fairy energies would be able to do it. He has Premonition and Oranguru in order to help him, but definitely if this one card off the end was a fairy energy, he'd be feeling like in a much better spot.
Needs 2 fairy energies, or this match will be over with Robin Schulz winning 1-0.
Right, so he needs to see 2
Premonition
here out of the 5.
Will we see 2 out of 4?
I
We
see
see
one.
1. Only 1, though. Does he have any other ways to draw additional cards? Doesn't seem like it. He may just be 1 energy.
Oh, the card in his hand!
The card in his hand was a fairy energy?
That's
He had the card in his hand as a fairy energy. He has the second fairy energy, and he'll be able to tie things up with Robin Schulz on his final turn possible. So they will end this match at 1 game apiece, with Tristan Wagner having the fairy energy in his hand. We obviously did not take that into account.
Wow. At 240 damage. Generally, you see that from combining both sides, but no, all on Tristan's Gardevoir, able to get himself that win there for the crucial match point that he was trying to fish out ever since losing the opening game.
Yeah, that opening game took so long that you knew that Tristan was kind of hoping for a draw at this point, and that's all that he could realistically hope to achieve.